As we've been working on new products for Snappy Pots, I started trying something new that I haven't really done before. I wanted to find some seeds that we could include with a Snappy Pots kit to have like this little seed garden that would grow super well in the Snappy Pots without grow lights. And I did some research, looked up a variety of seeds to see which ones started easily, and I'm going to show you what I ended up with. So first up, just a description of where these are growing. This is on a kitchen windowsill. It faces north, so it gets pretty bright indirect light, but it does not get direct sunlight. And as you can see from these, some of them are okay with that and some of them are not. So let me just go over what we're trying and what we may use and what we might not. So this is actually the very first plant that I planted here. If I pull up the tracker app, this is the Peppermint. And I believe, whoops, let's pull up the history here. So these were planted July 22nd, and it's currently been a month. And we have one little seed, and it has been this small for a very long time. So I kind of think that the seeds I got must not have been very viable seeds, because if you come look at kind of the photo history here, you can see we got one sprout, you can barely see it, on the 4th of August, and it's barely grown since then. So the peppermint, at least from the place I got these seeds, is not going to be a viable option. The marigold is probably going to be our winner. I think that even though I can tell it is a little bit stretched out, it seems to be doing okay with this limited amount of light. And it did sprout really quickly. So let me pull up the marigold here. So these were planted on July 26th. And again, it's the 21st. So if I go back and we look at the photos, we got a sprout just 3 days later, and we got a lot of sprouts. So I can't remember for sure how many seeds I planted. I think it might have been 5 or 6, but we got 3 sprouts pretty quick, and then they started growing very quickly. And now you can see them today. So I think they might just need a couple more sets of flowers and then they'll bloom. And then the alyssum, I was really hoping this would work because alyssum are small. And so I figured they would stay growing nice and small in the Snappy Pots, but they also have just gotten a bit stretched out. And the planting time and sprouting time was very similar to the marigolds, but they just really need more light. And that's the biggest thing I'm finding. You can see here with the zinnia. The zinnia really needs more light. These are so stretched out, and you can see, like, just from this angle, you can't even see the leaves hardly. So these are just way too thin. And so unfortunately, even though the zinnias were the first ones to sprout, and they sprouted really, really easily, they are not going to pass. So they do not seem to work without an extra light inside. These are English daisies. Again, I wanted something that was small, that would stay in here. Backtracking really quick to the zinnias. These are a Thumbelina variety, so they're supposed to get only about 8 to 12 inches, which I thought I could maybe tolerate, growing a couple inches, growing about a foot above the Snappy Pots. The English daisies, like the alyssum, should stay smaller. They're supposed to get about 6 to 8 inches, but again, they're just really weak, and that's from not getting enough light. Then these are my most recent additions here. These are actually, this one is polka dot plant, and then this one is coleus. So I'm growing coleus from plants that I bought at a nursery, and I'm going to do cuttings of those. But I wanted to try the seeds as well because these can be low light plants. Same with the polka dot plant. So if we look at the polka dot plant and look at the history on it, I got these on the 11th, and actually let me just go to the photo history. So these are only 10 days old, and they sprouted really, really fast. So You can see that I planted on the 11th, they sprouted on the 15th. So just 4 days later, they were very tiny, but then just within a couple days, they have really popped up and started doing well. And I don't think you'll be able to see it on the camera, but a few of these actually already have little polka dots on the leaves. So this one, I'm curious to see what happens in the next month or so. Obviously, they're not nearly as old. They're about 2 weeks behind these other plants, but so far they seem to be staying a little bit more compact than the flowers. And the benefit to these is they will also tolerate low light for the duration of their adulthood too. Whereas all these flowers are technically full sun plants. So this is my flower experiment, and like I said, we're hoping to do a little kit that has the Snappy Pot with a name tag and some other snaps to go with it, the soil and the seeds. So it's just a full gift all together. So if you're watching this down the road and you see these, go check out the website, snappypots.com, and see if any of these made it into the kits. But I'm really hoping for this polka dot plant and the coleus, because they're really pretty indoor plants that don't necessarily need a lot of light. So I think they'll do well for beginning gardeners in a window.